Hello, ladies and gentlemen, realBluTV here, and the European and North American $8,000 main event for the Rogue Company tournament was 2 days long, and it was even longer if you just watch the entire thing like I did. I can't even talk right now. I look insane. I barely have had any sleep because I've been so excited about this tournament. We saw the best teams from EU and the best teams from NA go at it. 8 days of qualifiers, open bracket qualifiers, allowing the top 2 teams from each of those to be entered into this main bracket. 16 teams fighting for $8,000, being $6,000 to first place, $2,000 to second place, double elimination, and it was an insane tournament. We even saw some upsets and a pretty big one towards the end that nobody would have expected, besides maybe the 4 people that were on the team that got the upset. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the matches we saw on day number 1. Right away, we come into this and we're looking at round number 1 of the winner's bracket, or the upper bracket, whatever you want to call it, whichever you prefer. We saw number 1 seed tier 1 take out Vital Effort, the 16 seed. It was pretty easily done as well, 3-0, so they moved on. Starless Esports and Locked In Roco. This is one of the 2 matchups that I could have saw going either way. Could have been a 3-0 either way, could have been a 3-2 either way as well, because these 2 teams in my eyes were very evenly matched, both of them making some roster changes and both of them still not having, you know, that perfect mentality going into each map. But Starless Esports, with the addition of Chloe, was able to take out Locked In Roco 3-0. F4L versus RTND. RTND, one of those teams that they could possibly make a pretty decent run, but with F4L having Moho, Holiday, Ozone, those 3 players, that core of that group right there really impressed me. They had Hawks on the team as well, who's always been a solid player. So they advanced, winning 3-2, but RTND, again, did take 2 maps off of them, pushing F4L to the brink. Then we saw RRXD, which was the second best team way back in the Roco Showdown European playoffs, or the regular season. They finished 3rd overall in the playoffs, but they went up against Gagoon Squad, which is a couple of Paladins players that I've known from the EU region. Gagoon Squad was able to win 3-1, so RRXD taking 1 map off of them was impressive, but not as impressive because RRXD, again, is a team that we like to see win games. They are capable of doing things like that with Delzy, Reels, and Smarty on that team, and to me, they can play a lot better than a 3-1 scoreline. No disrespect towards Gagoon Squad, because I know those guys. I love them too as well. Then we have 7 Deadly Sins and Clam and the boys. And 7 Deadly Sins with picks. Not playing Fixer on paper would look a little scary, but Leo really stepped up for them, and they were able to beat Clam and the boys 3-0, and they did that very fast, and almost 3-0'd the next matchup as well. And then we saw Stream Snipers going up against Sugang. They 3-0'd Sugang. And that was another one of those matches that could have gone either way in my head. Reason being is Sugang, they have improved dramatically since we first started watching them in the NA qualifiers. And Stream Snipers, a lot of those players still kind of new to the competitive scene here in Rogue Company, but they are very good competitive players that have competed in other games or other titles. So we knew that they would bring some competition to the table. We just didn't know if they were going to be ready for a team like Sugang, who has been grinding. But they were, and they 3-0'd them. Then we saw Aim Assist Kings, which is the former Morningstar team that finished 3rd in the North American main bracket of the $8,000 qualifier, or the $8,000 event that happened earlier or later, you know, later into 2020, but a little bit earlier before this EU one, as we did have New Year's in between them. But Aim Assist Kings, they changed their name. They got rid of Net J and they picked up Neg, or Negligent, and he's fantastic player, fantastic addition. He played out of his mind on day 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. FNJW was their opponent. Not much of a competition for them. It looked like they 3-0'd them or 3-0'd them pretty quickly as well. Then we saw the 15 seed Devil May Cry. They ended up losing to the number 2 seed Era Eternity, which was the EU favorite, the powerhouse team from EU. Devil May Cry with Gringo Jr. in them. They still put up a fight. They ended up losing to Era Eternity 3-0, but that just means they dropped down to the lower bracket. Moving on to the second round, we saw Tier 1 versus Starless Esports. Starless Esports was able to take Game 2 against Tier 1. It was a 6-6 battle. We jumped in on the CMG cast after that. But they were unable to take any more games after that. And Tier 1, I think they 7-0'd them the very next game. So they go 6-6, Starless wins, and then all of a sudden they get 7-0'd. So Tier 1 did not want to have any more gambles with Starless. They ended up taking that set 3-1. F4L, same thing, 3-1 over Gagoon Squad. F4L, they're the ones running Sigrid on attack, or the pioneers of Sigrid right now. They also run a lot of Ronin from Holiday, who's also the player who plays Sigrid for them. So they're trying to change things up, and they were doing very well. They were able to beat Gagoon Squad. 7 Deadly Sins were pretty much steamrolling through Stream Snipers. Stream Snipers, of course, were able to steal one game away from them, but 7 Deadly Sins, again, picks on things like Anvil. They even had Ink flex to the Anvil a couple times during the tournament as well. So just the dynamic rogue pool that is available to them with their players. I mean, you have Leo on Fixer. That used to be Pix. Now Pix is playing Anvil. Then you can see Ink on Anvil. And whether it's on attack or defense, they were running Anvil on both. Sometimes they were swapping who plays it in game. Sometimes they were just, one would play it the entirety of one game. It didn't really matter. That rogue pool, huge for those 3 players, and the flexibility of them to be able to swap up. And who really impressed me even more from the small sample size we've seen before was Codener, the EU player that was playing with them. And he is in the top 10 now in my head for EU players. Could even possibly be, or top 5 for EU players right now in my head. Could possibly even be top 10 overall across both regions after his performances in this tournament. We also saw Aim Assist Kings going up against Era Eternity. They ended up losing 3-1, so they dropped down to the lower bracket. In the semifinals of the winners bracket, we saw Tier 1 3-0 F4L. That was pretty quickly done as well. F4L did have a couple rounds where they looked like they were going to be able to overcome Tier 1, but Tier 1 ended up taking those victories. 7 Deadly Sins versus Era Eternity, that went 5 games, and that was a very gruesome and grueling 5 games as well. Trading back and forth blows. It was actually a 2-0 lead for 7 Deadly Sins. Era Eternity with the reverse sweep. I'll say this now, and I'll probably say it again at some point during the breakdown. Era Eternity, the best team to make mid-game adjustments, the best team to make mid-set adjustments between game 1 and 2, between game 2 and 3, 4 and 5, whatever it may be. The best team to make adjustments between rounds 1 and 2 or rounds 6 and 9, doesn't really matter. Era Eternity, best team at making adjustments on the fly, in the middle of rounds, in between rounds, in between games, doesn't matter. They were able to make the reverse sweep right there and come back 3-2. Let's drop down into the lower bracket real quick. We had Vital Effort going up against Locked In Roco. That was a pretty easy 2-0. Actually, most of the first rounds of the losers bracket was pretty much 2-0s, except for Clam and the boys. They ended up having one game taken off of them by Sugang. Again, some impressive improvements from both of those squads. Sugang, unfortunately, was eliminated along with FNJW, RRXD, and Vital Effort once more. Into the next round, we saw Aim Assist Kings take out Locked In Roco. That was a 7-8 matchup, so they actually had to play against each other in the qualifiers, I believe. That would be qualifier number 4. So they had a rematch right there. Aim Assist Kings were able to win that 2-0. RTND surprisingly beat Stream Snipers 2-0. I thought maybe Stream Snipers would be able to take one game off of them or even win this set. Again, that's just Stream Snipers not having the competitive advantage of grinding the game as much as some of the other players, like the ones that are on RTND, in my opinion. Gagoon Squad 2-0s Clam and the boys, so Gagoon Squad keeps their EU dreams alive. Starless Esports ended up falling to Devil May Cry, and it was a pretty dominant performance by DMC. DMC then moved on to face Gagoon Squad. They 2-0'd them as well. They are undefeated in the losers bracket up to this point. And they continued that trend as they beat 7 Deadly Sins in the losers semis right there. Or excuse me, well, it would be loser semis, but the round 4 of that, they were able to beat 7 Deadly Sins and move into round number 5. We saw Aim Assist Kings 2-0 RTND. Actually, I believe it was a 2-0. Some of these may be a little frustrated in the mix here as we were kind of doing this on the fly as I was casting. So give me a break if I get it wrong. Oh, we saw Amos's Kings take out F4L 2-1 as well. That was F4L and Skyfell in game 3. They got kind of frustrated amongst each other, and that's really where it broke down. There was some missed calls and missed plays as well. People were not following the play calls, and there was a lot of things happening that weren't going well for F4L, so Amos's Kings moved on. They ended up facing Devil May Cry in round 5 of the losers bracket, and they beat them 3-0 and pretty convincingly. That was even on day 2. That is the first game of day 2 that we saw. We didn't actually see that from the CMG stream, but if you were watching any of those players' point of view, they 3-0'd them. That was pretty fast, and this is the day where Amos's Kings really stepped up. And you see right there, Tier 1 losing to Era Eternity 3-2 in the winners finals. That's right, winners finals. Tier 1, they win game 1, they lose game 2, they win game 3, they lose game 4, and then Era Eternity 6-6. Game 5, Era Eternity really stepped up. We can even break it down a little bit better for you here. Game number 1, Factory, Pulse, not giving up so easily. He played tremendously. Next was on the Scorch. Era controls the pace of the entire game pretty much. And Frag puts T1 on his back towards the later rounds. And that's the reason why I was able to go so deep into those round counts most of these games. The next game was Skyfell. Era was getting manhandled 0-2 to start off. T1 was planting the A site and holding it perfectly versus the Anvil retake of Era. T1 plants A site every single attacking round that they had. It was also a Lancer versus Lancer battle. Amos on Lancer, Nex on Lancer. Two people that are prominent Lancer players. Era brought it back to a 6-5 to win 7-6, and they shoved face playing for kills and no plants in that last round. They were able to win it. They were down 6-5. They get one round, make it a 6-6, and then they just shove place. Don't even go for the plant. They want that. They're hungry. They took it. So it was 1-1 at that point. Third game, High Castle. It's a slow start, losing the pistol round for Era, but they had better attacks and an even better defense than we have seen from them against T1 in previous times, even the first 2 games. Amos even rebounded beautifully from the previous game and played even better. His Lancer was a little lackluster versus Nex. He got caught off guard a bunch of times. The flank got flanked by his counterpart. So MS being able to rebound way better in that High Castle game, and them having better defense and better attacks on both sides was able to help Era take that win in game number 3. Game number 4 went to Lockdown, and this is where Nash flexed to the Dallas, showing his rogue pool expand even more to us. There was no Lancer from Nex. That was another big thing on the map. 3-0. T1 was playing the bomb plant on A perfectly. They went B once maybe as a full squad. Other than that, they'd send maybe one person there to try and sell it, but they went A almost every time. And they were 3-0 doing that to start off the game. Era was not able to retake with kills fast enough, and then it came down to T1 just playing for time, and they did it perfectly. Their defense was beautiful as well. That was a lopsided game. I think it was like 7-2, 7-4 maybe at the most. So Lockdown going in favor of T1. Again, that's probably their best map if you ask me. Then we went to Canals. Era had to adjust retakes since going down 0-2 and playing too slowly on Canals. We've seen them play Canals before. T1 planted the A site the first 2 rounds. When Era was down 0-2, they were playing too slow, and they were playing for that retake with the Anvil. T1 planted A both those times. They held that perfectly, and they denied that Anvil plant. But Era was better on the B retakes. They moved faster. They reacted faster. They knew exactly where to go, how to take care of the flanks. And once they started getting rid of Nex, and they were taking care of Nex on the Lancer flank, the rest of the team crumbled as Era just shoved face into them, and they took care of them. Their attacks were a little lackluster, though, and they had poor holds after they planted the bomb. No Anvil shield for the defuse from the side of T1, and they still continue to go towards B on the attack. So Era somehow pulls out a 6-4 to a 6-6 off some passive-aggressive attack, and they're able to win the game at the end of the day. So they pushed T1. By the way, no one thought T1 was going to lose this matchup. No one thought T1 was going to lose this tournament. Hey, everyone just said in the tweets, on Twitter, on social media, in the streams, everywhere, just give T1 their money already. Well, guess what? We play the games for a reason, because anything can happen, baby. And they sent them to the lower bracket. So afterwards, we saw Aim Assist Kings versus Tier 1. Guess what? Aim Assist Kings came to play today, baby. And, it was very interesting. Losers finals, game number 1, we go to Vice. Neg was playing Anvil on this map. We saw him do it numerous times. And he was using the shotgun on defense with Anvil. Great shield plants for the defuse as well. Highlight was playing Lancer, and he was playing well very early on, especially. T1 didn't use a Vi, and when we didn't see them use a Vi, we saw them not do as great. Gronky on the Vi is the best win condition T1 has at this point. If you were to ask me anything on any map, any comp, anything against any team, give Vi to Gronky. T1's win condition is set and ready to go. But they didn't play Vi on that map. Domes was missing most of his first shots onto frag out. So what did he do? He didn't try to reach out him. He didn't try and keep peeking him. Instead, he put himself in a spot to win the pistol battle with the frag on the Fixer. Fixer v Fixer with the warrant. He missed shots. He put himself in position to win those battles, knowing that he will have the advantage. He knew in his head, he figured he was more comfortable in the pistol battles or with a C4 or maybe getting up close. So what did he do? He did exactly that. Great play from Domes there, especially against one of the best, if not the best, Fixer we have seen so far in the Rogue Company scene. Also on attack for Vice, Neg pulls Glitch out on attack. We've seen this even the day before versus F4L on Vice as well in the losers bracket, and he played it great. This is what I love, is they probably were watching VODs. They were going back. They were trying new things. They were scrimming with new things, and guess what? They pull up with a Glitch on attack on Vice. We haven't seen that from anyone else. We might have seen a couple Glitch plays coming out from other people. They even were trying Glitch with NetJ on different maps. It wasn't working out, apparently. They bring in Neg. He plays that. They have flashbangs. He's got the Semtex. He's got the LMPX, and he's got that Glitch ability, baby. You try to anvil up on that defuse, guess what? And he's there. But they were using it to take care of trench APSs. They singled out Nash perfectly on the backside of water for the A plants so beautifully, and that's what I love. They tried something new, and nobody else, everyone else is in their comfort zone. Yes, there's those standard meta picks, but guess what? Lancer wasn't meta until Nex pretty much made it meta, and everyone realized how great Lancer could be. Now, are we going to start seeing the glitches come out, baby? Meanwhile, game 2, we went to Factory. Aim Assist Kings, they full swept into the defensive spawns in the very first round, pistol round. They were playing attack. They just ran right through A site and went right into the defensive spawns. They planted main door, went through B site and planted on A. They planted in the main door. They threw they were in a 2v3, maybe a 2v2 situation. They had the win condition. All they had to do was play time, use the Incend from the Scorch perfectly. Instead, they used the Incend too early. Scorch ego peaks in a 1v3 situation and gives up the defuse win condition because they killed him, and then the 3 last members just collapse on the Vi who was left standing, which was Cannibals. And because of that, they got that defuse right there. 4 spicy fireballs, baby, in this game with 2 Vi's and 2 Scorches, 1 on each team. They only had a Dahlia on one of those teams as well. So 2 members immune to fire on one side and 2 Incend grenades on both sides. So that was an interesting matchup on Factory. T1 tries a more aggro defense with 2 flanks, but it gets called out quickly, and that's when things started to fall apart for T1 on the Factory. But they did get a little bit better. Aim Assist took so much space and was team shooting outstandingly together towards the later rounds. Aim Assist didn't fall for rotation fakes from T1's attack either, and it just increased the chance of them winning, and they were up 2-0. But then we go to Skyfell, and Aim Assist wins the pistol round fast to secure their economy advantage. Each round, first half got slower and slower and slower. There was no Dallas in play from either team. There was Lancers on both sides. T1 wasn't pushing the A attack nearly as much on their side. as they did versus Era, which was their successful pushes, which gave them that win on Skyfell so convincingly. Instead, T1 started to play faster and faster, and they played off of their first picks a little bit quicker and quicker and quicker. And guess what? That's when they started to win, and they take Skyfell, and they make it a 2-1. Remember, this was best of 5, so we go to game 4. High Castle. Highlight brings out the Talon on attack, and he plays it perfectly. He even flanked in the first 2 rounds after the bomb was planted on the B site. They go for the Anvil defuse on the side of T1. They get rid of the Anvil shield. They're battling it out. There's a big fight in that little courtyard on double box and on the bomb site B. And all of a sudden, Talon with a Talon dart can just get there, and he gets behind in kitchen and he wipes out 2 of them. And then all of a sudden, the fight's over and they lose. T1 gave up plays for B. They gave up plays for B retake, but the Talon flank was too good most of the time. Then Talon got inside their head. He started not flanking. He was just playing up front with the rest of his team. Then they sent someone else on a flank. T1 had the advantage on the retakes. But Highlight and Neg, they know how to stay alive most of the time. Every time there was a fight breaking out, 2 people would fall for the attackers on the side of Aim Assist Kings, and you'd be like, oh no, they're starting to fall here. This could be a defuse. The Anvil shield's up. Anvil's on the defuse. All of a sudden, boom, bada bing, bada boom, flashbangs come in, and grenades and shots are firing down, and man, T1 just couldn't get the retakes secured. They couldn't get the defuses. Highlight, Neg, staying alive, playing their life, playing the time, playing the objective, and playing the game. Domes, also in High Castle. Little defensive fixer this time around was using the D3DI or the Deadeye. Pistol fights were his priority against the enemy fixer once again. Frag out, bringing out the tier as usual. We saw Domes do this a couple times today, and it all started here on this High Castle game. He brings out the Deadeye, and he's able to get picked up by the Dahlia Res. On the defensive side, he's able to get the shots that he needs with that Deadeye, put out some consistent damage, even though it's not those popping headshots that we're used to. So great play from Domes. Really changed up his play style all day today. But let's move on, because they won that 3-1. Tier 1 will get 3rd place in this tournament. So it's Aim Assist Kings versus Era Eternity in the grand finals. Aim Assist Kings needed to win 3 out of a best of 5 in order to reset the bracket and then do it again if they want to win the big prize money. If they want to be the #1 team right now. Guess what? Era Eternity's in there. We go to Windward, game number 1. First half, Ronin mirrored. Ronin's on both sides, and there's no Vi on either side. Which on Windward, I guess you can say is okay, but Vi bringing so much greatness and utility, and just, you need a Vi, baby. Vi has been so good everywhere. It's one of those rogues that we know we are guaranteed to see. This time, though, the guarantee wasn't a guarantee. Aim Assist was running away on the attack side, pretty much just dominating. And Era needed to adjust their retakes, but it was too late. They finished 4-2. And then on the defensive side, 3 rounds to go. Aim Assist Kings were able to take it. They take game number 1. That's when things started to get a little heated. But then again, like I said earlier, the best team to make mid-game adjustments, mid-match adjustments, mid-round adjustments. Doesn't matter where they need to make adjustments. They made them, because we go to Factory game number 2, okay? And both teams were playing extremely slow to start off. Extremely slow. It was dead silent. You could hear the wind in the game. You could hear the sand moving across people's feet. Both were allowing the bomb to be planted on defense. Both teams. They just allowed the plants to come through. We saw a Scorch on defense from the side of... Or actually, we saw a Scorch on attack and defense from Aim Assist Kings, but we didn't see a Scorch on attack from Era, and they were attacking first. It got a little hectic even. It still worked out for him. Both were allowing bomb plants. No Scorch from Era on attack, like I said. Highlight Scorch's flanks on that defensive side, while the rest of the defense played aggro A. Yeah, they played aggressively on A, and Scorch was still able to get some flanks on them. Because you were able to eliminate that space, you didn't give them as much space. That's less space that Highlight has to cover on the flank. That's less time for him to be able to get to that flanking position. And because of that, that aggro play from the defenders on the A site, pushing them back, he was able to wrap around even faster. He will meet them at a closer point from where he started than as if they were taking a lot of space from if you were giving up that A site. So that's good play from them right there. Big recognition from the space creation and the the space ticking department, I guess you can call it. Era pulled their Scorch out on defense, though, and they had the Anvil as well, and they just, they made it 6-6 by the time they had defense on second half. They allowed the plant, and then they would wipe on retake with no flank. Even when they did, they flanked a few times and were still able to get it. And then when they didn't send the flank, or maybe they sent slop with the fixer flank, they'd still be able to get it on the retakes. They played that perfectly, especially on those B plants, and they allowed it. They just let it happen. They let Scorch get out sometimes, and most of the time they would trap her in there and just finish off. So they were able to take game number 2. Moving into game number 3, Skyfell. Era shows why they play Skyfell well when they play their normal Skyfell comp. We saw Lancers coming out once again from Highlight and Emis. This time, Emis got the best of Highlight. The Lancer was being outdone by the Emis Lancer, okay? And this time, he was the one flanking the flank, baby. Slop started popping off in the later attack rounds for them, too, in the first half. Then he started doing it again in the second half on defense. There was 4 rounds taken straight because this was a 6-0 after the attacking half from Era Eternity. They put on an offensive clinic on the attacking side of Skyfell, okay? I don't know where that was against T1, but they showed up this time. Then 4 straight rounds for the attacking side of Aim Assist Kings, but after that, Domes, he had the Deadeye in his hand again. Slop had the tier, and Slop was winning those battles, popping heads. There was a moment where he got like 3 in a row instantly. And Highlight Lancer plays with his team on the offensive side more as the round started to pick up. He didn't really want to try and flank. He was getting caught off a lot. He was getting called out a lot. He was getting picked off a lot. He was usually the first pick, and when that happened, that's why they were able to go down 0-6 at the start of the game. But they did pick it up. It was a 6-4 at one point, but again, Skyfell went in favor of Era Eternity. They're up 2-1 now. And going into game number 4 on Vice, it was Lancer versus Lancer again. Neg, they were attacking first with Aim Assist Kings. Neg brought out the attach Glitch again, but he got shut down. And when they took care of Glitch, they gave up a little too much on that flank from Era, and it started to get a little hairy. But on that attacking side for Era, they just went crazy. Highlights Lancer on Vice, by the way, is just built different. His Lancer everywhere else, it's a good Lancer. It's a great Lancer. His Lancer on Vice, that might be the best Vice Lancer. That might be the best Lancer player on Vice playing Lancer. Okay? But Anvil Shotgun coming out on defense for Neg again was no match. I mean, Emis on Lancer just did great that time around on the attacking side. He did some great things on defense too. But overall, it was a great tournament. Grand Finals go in favor of Era Eternity 3-1. Again, that was an insane matchup. This is kind of a long recap video. I know I tried to make it as short as possible. It's really hard while I'm casting and watching the games and taking all my notes and doing the analytics and all that stuff to like make clips and stuff for the video. So I hope you guys aren't too mad about the clips that I have above. I didn't really catch everyone. I didn't catch every play that I talked about. I didn't really get a little bit of I try to even out the exposure for everyone. So I'm sorry if I didn't put you in any of the clips. I'm really sorry. Mostly all the games that happened on day 2 of the. But we saw Era Eternity, the European team, wins the European tournament with some NA sprinkled in there. There were more NA teams in this top 16, if I recall. But, I mean, it was great. First place goes to Era Eternity. Second place goes to Aim Assist Kings. Third place goes to Tier 1. And fourth place goes to, I believe, Devil May Cry, I think. So shout out to all 4 of those teams, all those players. A lot of people think, when you lose, you break up. I think Aim Assist Kings are the best version of themselves right now. I think Era Eternity just won, so they're just partying right now. I think that Tier 1 is not going to break up. I think they're going to go back, figure out what they can learn from this loss, and just increase their play and come out as the best iteration of Tier 1 that we've seen in the past. And for Devil May Cry, I mean, I think that was a pickup team, but I don't know. If they stick together, they have a promising future from what it seems like right now. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at realBluTV with no E in blue. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Comment below what you thought about the tournament, which teams you were rooting for, who you thought was the Cinderella, who you thought was a big upset. Of course, I mean, T1 versus Aim Assist Kings is probably the upset right there. And got any Era Eternity fans, any fans of Emis, the French God, Exo, Slopadopoulos, aka Exo, aka Era Slop, my boy from Paladins, or Pulse, the silent assassin. He was getting so many kills, top fragging pretty much 90% of the time, and we never even seen him on the map most times. So let me know what you guys think about this tournament. And yeah, just keep grinding, everyone. And can't wait for season 1 and the new ranked, baby. Let's go.